Hey guys, I hope you're all doing super well today. Ugh, I'm so excited to be filming today. It has been ages since I should have uploaded this video. So today I'm going to talk about the books that I read in December 2018. I know, a little late. And I promise you, the best books of 2018 are coming soon. I am so excited to be making that video. Probably making it today. So you'll see the same messy me soon. Coming soon to theater near you. The first book that I read in December was The Never-Ending Story by Michael Ende. I read this because me and my mom were gonna see it at like a theater in Gothenburg. It has such a cool vibe. You can see all of these cult movies, and we watched Rock Horror Picture Show there, and it was fabulous. In Greece, we reviewed this one and we went and saw it, and the movie is better than the book, I have to admit. So if you're interested in like this whole concept, like I recommend just looking at the movie, which I don't say often, but it's true. So this is an older fantasy. I think it's originally written in French or German, I'm not really sure. It's about a little boy that's being bullied called Bastien, and when he's fleeing from all these bullies, he runs into a bookstore where he steals this book called The Never-Ending Story, and he locks himself in the attic of his school and he starts reading this book, The Never-Ending Story. And it is a fantasy book about this world called Fantasia, and in Fantasia, the world is collapsing and the princess there is dying. The main hero in the book that he is reading has to find a way to save the princess and therefore save the kingdom, because it's being swallowed up by the nothingness, which is basically just destroying the whole land. And as he's reading the book, this is a little bit of a spoiler, but not really, because the book continues on after that, while the movie is only actually half the book. And so Bastien notices that he has an effect on the book that he is reading. He can notice that he is somehow part of the book. Like while he's reading the story, he has influence over the characters or the sounds. Like he screams at one point, and the people in Fantasia can hear him scream. And I love this concept. Like, how cool wouldn't be that? This is like a book dream, to be reading a book and realize that you're actually in the book. Like, that would be the coolest thing ever. So the thing is, that is actually only half the book, and that is the best part, and it is also the movie. The second part is boring because it's like a climax and it leads up to this point halfway in the book, and after that it's like the downfall, but it doesn't really feel that important, even though I know it's about Bastien and his character and how he has to learn to not get gripped by this hero thing and try to stay true to himself. So yeah, I really liked this book. I think I even gave it 4 stars because I did enjoy it. It's very whimsical. It's a middle grade, I think, but I definitely recommend the movie more. Next, I read God's Grave by Jay Kristoff. Like, oh my god. I was so tired of young adult when I started reading the series, and then I read this series and I realized like there's nothing wrong with young adult. It's just the books I've been reading. Okay guys, like young adult is fine, and this is like, these are like one of my new favorite like fantasy series of all time. Okay, I don't usually proclaim young adult fantasy as like my favorite fantasy of all time because I like adult much more because it's much more complex, but this was so great. Like, oh my god, it is so good. It is so addicting. This is like a 500-page book, and I think I read it in like 3 days or something. It's 400. 3 days isn't really that quick for 400-page, but anyways, I go to school, so consider that. Like, I just like devoured this book. This was just as good as the first one. You're following the main character called Mia Corvair, and in the first one she joins this assassin school sort of to take revenge on the people that killed her family. But in this one, it becomes so much more complicated, and the people she thought she basically needed to take revenge on, it's just like it gets more complicated, and she doesn't really know who her enemies are. And in this one, she's not in the Blade School anymore, and she is trying to hunt down these people that killed her family. And I think the biggest flaw with this book is that I don't like the trope where the only thing that drives a person is revenge, because I think it's silly and it's such a typical thing that happens in fantasy where like it's just dumb. Kind of like revenge doesn't actually give you any satisfaction. Like, you're just killing people and then spreading more joy and revenge, then their family will want revenge on you. Like, it's just so stupid. I absolutely hate it, and it's one of the biggest flaw when it comes to humanity. Yeah, so that kind of bothers me, but it's just like a minor driven point of the main character. The main character is this like tiny kick-ass assassin, and I think many people think that it's annoying when like a normal little girl becomes like this amazing assassin and can kill so many people, but I love that trope. I don't think it's overused at all. I think it's so cool. This book also has magic in it because she has something that basically makes her control like shadows, and she has this shadow cat that basically follows her, and she also has another shadow creature that she gained from the last book, and I think that's really interesting. Also, the ending of this book, like, oh, like, I cannot wait. Like, I was about to, like, there's no way I can wait for the next book. I'm gonna have to. I think it comes out in September, but like, whew, I am so excited. I love these covers as well. Like, this book is so good. And also, something I didn't mention last time, it has like I don't want to say annotations because I don't think it has side notes. It has, index? I don't know what it's called now, but it's like the thing at the bottom where it's like a little star in a word, and then there's a star in the bottom, and then it explains that thing. And I like this, but I also don't like it because there can be like a really intense action scene, and then suddenly like in the middle of the action scene there's a little star, and then it starts explaining about like history of something, and I'm like, you're breaking the attention of the actual action scene. But then at some point, like in one of them, at the bottom it said like why are you reading this instead of actually like following the main character like in this like moment? And I was like, that's so dumb, but like I love it. Oh, highly recommend this series. I don't know how many books there will be, but like, oh my god. Whew. Next I read Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch. This is an adult fantasy, and this one takes place out at sea. And what I notice about fantasy books is that the second book in a series so often takes place in the water or at sea. I don't know what that is about, but there is a lot. For example, One Dark Throne takes place at sea partly. The second book in the Leigh Bardugo, the Grishaverse, also takes place at sea. And for some strange reason, I can't remember any more now, but I swear there are more because I was thinking about it the other day. There are more, I'm sure of it. But this one, you follow Locke Lamora, which is this kind of like super intelligent thief. He is not like a combat person or assassination person, like he's a good person, but he is incredibly clever at this coming up with schemes and a way to steal from rich people, basically. In the first one, you basically get to follow him growing up and developing in this crew of thieves who have this big project going on, but it completely spirals out of control, and something happens that leads them to this book. And in this book, he and his friend is in another city and they're doing another coup, and it is so frustrating because in the start of the book, it starts with them actually planning all these things, and it starts really clever, but then something interrupts them, and something from the past from the first book actually wants to assassinate them, and so for a whole period of time they are at sea trying to do the bidding of another nobleman, I guess you could say. It is kind of like boring, like not much happens and it drags a little bit, and at the end it's like, whoa, like it's so good. Like the ending of these books, like I like fantasy books that they're okay if they're slow, but if the ending is amazing, like I love it. I gave this 4 stars though because I gave the previous one 5, and it kind of like evens out because they're not like fully 5-star books, but they're like almost there. They're really good. And I think I realized why I love these books so much and why they actually are so good. And it's because they're so incredibly visual. Like while you're reading this book, you can see everything. Like I have never read a book which makes you feel like you're in the story as much as this. Like these have the best combat scenes. You can see like everything happening in your mind so incredibly clear. Like I'm a very imaginative person. I see books happening and scenes and people like all the time when I read, but this one just takes it like to another level, like this series. So I can't wait to read the last one. I'm so excited. Great series. Then I read Tales of Beetle the Bard by J.K. Rowling and illustrated by Chris Riddell. Of course, I had to get this version. Like, I love Chris Riddell's art. I actually have read another book by him this month where he illustrates it. Illustrations are absolutely amazing. Like, I am obsessed with them, and these are colored and it's also annotated. Oh my god, look at this illustration of like Voldemort that I just put on. Like, oh my god, it's so amazing. Anyways, I love this so much. I give it 5 stars because of the combination of the annotation by, or the reflection of Albus Dumbledore after each little story. Of course, this is a book that is in Harry Potter, and especially the 7th book, if you didn't already know that, but this was just so amazing. I read the original version when I was very, very young, and I didn't remember much of it, so I really enjoyed reading this again. I thought it was absolutely amazing. I am so happy to have this version. Like, I'll read it so many times. I can't wait until I can read it to like my little brother or something. It was just so brilliant. And so the next book that I also read that was illustrated by Chris Riddell was The Lie Tree by Frances Hardinge. I think I've said this before, but this author, I've actually met her in Sweden by a complete coincidence, and I didn't think she was a huge author then, but her books are actually really good because they are incredibly unique. This is a middle grade, but it's definitely like a harder middle grade, I would say. So in this one you're following, it doesn't say anything on the back, this book you're following this main character called Faith. And the last book I read by her, the main character was Makepeace, so I think like this author likes to have like weird whimsical names for the characters. So this book you get to follow Faith, who is like I think 14 years old, maybe a little bit older, 16, I don't really remember. She has to move to this island because her father is running away from a science fraud. He has discovered these fossils and everyone is accusing him for basically faking these fossils, and her father is a scientist in that sense, and they have to move to this little island where you get to follow like the intrigues of all the people there. And her father is actually invited to this island to take place in this digging that is happening, and Makepeace is super interested in science. She learned like Greek all by herself when she was like 5 years old, which is a little like out there, I know. But I also like characters that are incredibly intelligent. I think it's so great to read about. And yeah, so she has this like incredible thirst for science, and she wants to learn, but because she is a girl and a woman, her father basically doesn't want her to have any part of it, or doesn't want her to seem intelligent to his friends. And she also has a little brother who everyone wants to take over the family, you know, like business or like the prestige of being a scientist, but her little brother is kind of dumb and she's the one who has to take care of him. And I don't know when this book is supposed to be take place because it is kind of historical fiction sort of book, but it seems like maybe the early 1800s, maybe, I'm not sure, I can be completely wrong, I'm not great with history things. This book is incredibly unique. It's about her relationship to her father, which definitely develops throughout the book, and I think it's so unique to have that distinction, the relationship between a little girl and her father, because I don't really see that a lot in literature. But it's also about her trying to oh, there's one like line in this book where her father is like yelling at her, and I just got so frustrated. Like, I get so engaged in a book when I'm reading it. Okay, so this is like the line that her father says. A girl cannot be brave or clever or skilled as a boy can. If she is not good, she is nothing. And oh my god, her father frustrated me so much. And he goes on to say, your child begins her life in debt to their parents, the parents that house, clothe, and feed them. A son may someday pay back that debt by cutting a figure in the world and raising the family's fortunes. As a daughter, you will never. And oh my god, you will never serve with honor in the army or distinguish yourself in the sciences or make a name for yourself in the church or parliament or make a decent living in the professions. You will never be anything but a burden and a drain on my purse. Like, oh my god, this book is really good. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, and the ending is really good, and the Lie Tree is like a magical aspect of it that you sort of have to discover while you're reading it. But this was a really good middle grade, and it's also one of those that it is not a typical middle grade, so I did really enjoy it. And the last book I read this month, get ready for this, was The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. This is Mistborn Book 1, First Era. I am so excited to be talking about this. Like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm finally reading this book. Like, it came to a point where like everyone was asking me in my latest fantasy recommendations video if I'd read this book, and I was like, okay, I just need to read it like now. So this was definitely the year of Brandon Sanderson. I read almost all of his Cosmere books. I only have the Mistborn First Era and Second Era left, and I'm soon done with the First Era. What is there to say about this book? This is about two main characters called Vin and Kel. Vin is a street urchin, like she has been abandoned by her brother and she's beaten by this thievery crew that she basically is part of, and Kel is gathering different people around the Empire to basically defeat the Lord Ruler. The Lord Ruler is a tyrant who basically is taught to be a god, and he has control over everything, and he has this power, immense power, that no one can beat him or kill him. It's like if Voldemort won Harry Potter, and that's like the world. This is what the world would be like afterwards. And in this world there is ash falling from the sky, and there's mists at night that come, and nobody dares to go out there. But the main theme of this book is definitely the royals and noblemen versus like the Skaa. And the Skaa are like all the peasants, and they're treated very like badly. They don't get paid, they just get hit, killed. Like there was one scene in the book where there's this carriage coming down the street, and just because there's a boy in the way of the carriage, they just kill him because he was in the way. Like they don't even push him aside, he's just dead. Like they're less than pigs basically. And Kel turns out to take Vin into her thieving crew and introduces her to Mistborn. And Mistborn and the magic system in this book is basically that you can control metals. Mistborn can swallow like all the metals and then take power from all of them. And Kel is a Mistborn, and it is so interesting. I love the magic in this book because it makes so much sense that, you know, when you eat, you take energy from your food and most of your food disappears. And it's kind of like the same with the metal, like you swallow the metal and then you take the powers from the metal themselves. I'm probably saying too much, like you should figure out all this by yourself. Amazing, 5 stars. The ending, like not okay, but so good. Like I cried and cried and cried. Can't recommend this enough. So read a lot of good books this month. I hope you guys enjoyed. And tell me below what this month, last month, December, you know what I mean. Tell me below any good books that you read in December, or if you've read any of these books, I would love to know. Have a great one, guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye!